Anti-American at school? In American school? What does that even mean? I have thoughts about what it could be as like a former history teacher. I've seen rebellious kids protest the country in class. So I can't tell if I'm going to be like blown away and in awe at this crazy example or like, I've seen worse. I don't know what to think. So I guess we'll see. Happy apple picking day! Some quick reminders for some of our new friends. If you want a chance for your stories to be featured on Am I the Bad Apple, you can send them to my subreddit, r/Am I the Bad Apple. And as our weekly reminder, we all come from different branches of the apple tree. And what that means is that we've all grown up living different lives and having different experiences. And those experiences are gonna shape our perspective, how we internalize problems, how we internalize stories. You and I could listen to the same story being told the same way by me, and we still might hear it different ways, the way that we assume someone's tone or intentions. That's normal, and that's why we practice constructive communication down in the comments. So without further ado, let's get started with this week's episode of Am I the Bad Apple? Let's go apple picking! Apple number 1. Am I the bad apple for kicking a minor out of my house? I, 34 female, am a mom of a 14-year-old daughter, Lily. Recently, her friend Maya, 14 female, who lives just a few minutes away, came over to hang out. At first, everything seemed fine. They were laughing and chatting in Lily's room, and Maya's been over before without any issues. Little did I know, all this was about to go south. It started around lunch. My husband, Lily, Maya, and I were eating a homemade pasta dish that I made. Out of nowhere, Maya just insulted my cooking and said that the food tasted bland. I felt offended, but decided to brush it off. Then Maya turned to Lily and said something along the lines of, you know, you'd actually be so much prettier if you got a nose piercing. It would totally balance out your face. Lily got visibly upset and snapped back immediately. Maya just rolled her eyes and said that it wasn't that deep, as if all of that wasn't bad enough. Maya kept making passive-aggressive comments about the way we decorated our home. At this point, I was losing my patience. I warned her firmly that if she was gonna be behaving this way and treating my family like this, I was gonna kick her out. The final straw came when Maya noticed a family photo on the wall and said, Lily, your mom must have had you when she was like a teenager. No wonder she's so uptight. She missed out on life. I was livid. I stood up and said, that's enough. Grab your things and call your mother. You are leaving. Maya looked stunned and started crying. She said that I was overreacting. I didn't care, and I told her that she could wait on the lawn for her mom, but she needed to leave my home immediately. Later, Maya's mom called me furious, claiming that I had no right to kick her out like that. She accused me of being heartless and that teenagers just joke around like that. She also told me that Maya was just having a bad day. My husband agrees with me that I did the right thing by kicking Maya out. And he pointed out that if we let her stay, it would have sent the message that it's okay to insult people in their own home. Now I'm questioning if I overreacted. Am I the bad apple for kicking her out of my house? I think some people are probably going to have different opinions than me, and that is okay. And I say that like as someone who taught in high school. I don't think I would have done the same thing. Like, the point is, she hurt your feelings, and you didn't feel comfortable having her in your home anymore. And that's your right, and that's fair. So am I gonna give you bad apple for that? No. She only lives a few minutes away, and now I don't know if I would have told her to like go sit on the lawn. I know she only lives a few minutes away, so maybe I'll go crab apple for that. Because to say like, well, you can go sit on the lawn. But like, she's 14, you are technically the adult in charge of her. You are responsible for her safety at this moment in time. Like when the kids are at school, teachers are in charge of their safety stuff. That's the whole reason there are like hall passes when you go to the bathroom, because the teacher who's in charge of your well-being while you're in their classroom needs to know where you are. So like while she's in your care, her safety is in your control, like, right? Like you're in charge of her, you're the adult in charge of her. So I think I am gonna go crab apple for like telling her to go sit on the lawn. Unless you're planning on going to sit with her, right? Or you're just gonna sit at the window and watch her until she's picked up. But I think just having her sit outside, like she's 14. Yeah, is anything gonna happen? Probably not. But that feels weird to me for the adult in charge of her to be like, I don't care, just go sit outside. It is not safe out there like it used to be when I was a kid. So like to just go tell a 14-year-old girl, hey, sit outside by yourself. Like, to me, that just, I get a weird vibe from that. And there are probably gonna be people who are telling me that I'm overreacting, but if this is not normal behavior for her, and she's lashing out, and her mom will later come in and say, look, she had a really bad day. I mean, my first thought is, okay, I hope she doesn't run off, right? I hope she doesn't take off, and like, if she's that upset that she's lashing out at her friends and her friends' parents, that's my first thought, is I hope she doesn't run off and get herself into trouble. Is there also fear of like kidnappers out there? Yeah, of course, for sure. But like, my first thought is her running off. Like, it's not like she's 17, 18 years old. She's 14. That's a baby freshman right there. So I don't love that you're supposed to be the responsible adult, and like she could have waited in the house, personally. However, I know that I would not have made her leave right then and there unless the daughter came to me and said, like, I'm not comfortable with her, this is pissing me off. Because I know that you say that Lily was really uncomfortable with the nose piercing comment. However, I know that it rubbed you the wrong way, and I know that Lily didn't agree with her. It's not crazy uncommon for like girls, like girlfriends, like, oh, you would look so good if you dyed your hair. Oh, you would look so good if you got bangs. Or you would look so good if you got this piercing. So I know that the words that you wrote were, oh, you would look so much prettier. But considering you used the words something along the lines of, and I know from working in a high school for 5 years that, oh, you would look so good, XYZ is a very common way that girls talk to each other and suggest like cosmetic things. That makes me believe that's more along the lines of how she said it, and it rubbed you the wrong way. Especially because you said, well, she insulted my cooking, and she just said that the pasta was bland. Which to you, that might have hurt your feelings, and that's fine. But when I hear the words, she insulted my cooking, my go-to thought is she's saying something along the lines of, this is gross. I hate this. You burned this. You can't cook. Not, this is a little bland. Okay, maybe she just wants some salt. Like, I'm not saying that it was polite. I'm not saying it wasn't rude. I'm saying that when you go off on a, well, she insulted me, I'm expecting more than just, this was bland. And that might be a huge insult for you personally, and that's fine. I don't take it as that myself. So because that was like the big insult to you, to me, you lose a little bit of credibility when talking about how she's suggesting the nose piercing to Lily. And then you say, oh, well, she made passive-aggressive comments about the decorations. Well, what'd she say? I didn't get an example. And how do you know it was passive-aggressive? Now, the joke she made about you being a teenager, I'm gonna math real quick. 34 minus 14. You're like 20. That, like, again, I'm not saying it was polite. I'm not saying it wasn't rude. That, to me, feels very on par with just bad tasting jokes that kids that age make. It's like, is it a roll your eyes? Yes. Is it a teachable moment that you teach them that that's rude? Absolutely. It doesn't feel like, it doesn't surprise me. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm saying that I just spent all day with 14-year-olds for 5 years, and that feels very on par with someone like trying to be funny and cute and missing the mark entirely and just being rude. I'm not saying it was a good joke. I'm not saying it was polite. I'm not saying it wasn't rude. I'm saying I wouldn't kick a kid out over that. Like, do I get the vibe that she's lashing out a little bit and looking for attention? Yeah. Do I get the vibe that she is like a bad kid? No. Like, if this is her worst behavior, honestly, I'm not shocked. None of this behavior really shocks me personally. And it might be behavior that you're not okay with and that you're not comfortable with, and that's fine. That's okay. We can have different boundaries. I'm not gonna give you bad apple because you have a different boundary than me, or that you're a little bit more sensitive than me. That's fine. And that's not meant to be an insult. I feel like it sounded like one and it was not meant to be. I just don't personally agree with the actions, but I am gonna do crab apple about you being the responsible adult again in like having her go sit outside. When clearly something's wrong, clearly she's lashing out. You even said like everything was fine before, she never acted like this before. So as an adult, as a mother, I feel like that should be warning bells, like something is wrong. And I would be concerned about her running off. So that's why I'm going crabapple, personally. And you don't have to. You guys don't have to agree with me on that, and that's fine. That's just my thoughts and opinions. And I would honestly like talk to Lily, because it's very possible that she was upset and offended by the nose piercing comment. It's also possible that you didn't like it a lot more than Lily did. Because I know whenever people would suggest to me, like, dye my hair or do bangs or whatever. Like my mom when I was younger she doesn't need to do all that. Like, but like I didn't care. I'd just say, nah, I'm good. And it clearly upset my mom way more than it upset me. And if this is one of Lily's friends, I can see her not taking it personally, but I can also see Lily being kind of mean to Lily and Lily not being able to stand up for herself. So it could be either or. So I would just like have those conversations with her and ask her what she thought about it, not just go based on like what you assume she might maybe feel about it. And that's my thoughts. Apple number 2. Am I the bad apple for gossiping about my brother's fiance? I, 22 female, have an older brother, John, 32 male, who has been with his fiance Jane, 30 female, for 4 years. John and Jane now have a 4-month-old. Come on, baby. Hello. Happy Apple Day. Good girl. You coming to snuggle? Come on. Come on. No, you're gonna lay in your bed? Okay. Oh, belly rubs. Jane found out she was pregnant at 5.5 weeks and immediately called my mom to tell her. My mom was confused, but still very excited. Jane said she was gonna tell John when he got back from his work trip. A few hours later, she called again, claiming to have insatiable cravings. Mom made a joke about, isn't it a bit early for cravings? Well, then Jane just went off on her. She started yelling about how this was her pregnancy and no one else's. It was an odd reaction, so she apologized for her outburst by blaming it on hormones. When my brother returned from his trip, he and Jane left to stay at her mother's, and we didn't see her until after the baby was born. John said that it was because Jane was afraid of losing the pregnancy and wanted to be with her mom, and we needed to respect their boundaries. Whenever someone would ask about Jane or the baby, they would just shut it down with vague answers like, every pregnancy is different, or she's carrying small, which isn't unusual. They barely shared anything about the pregnancy. No ultrasound pictures, no baby shower, and Jane didn't want anyone around during the delivery. I also discovered that every craving she listed came from literally one article about pregnancy cravings, and she even listed numerous of them in the same order as the article. When the baby was born, and we were finally allowed to see Jane and John, and the baby, of course, it was very bittersweet, as we all wished we could have been there for Jane to help out, but Jane and John both reassured us that we did help by staying away. The weirdest part is how Jane describes the birth. She claims to have an epidural via IV drip into her hand, which is not how those are administered. When I asked clarifying questions, thinking she just got confused, which is understandable, she shut it down and refused to answer, kind of like how she would during the pregnancy. She said the baby had latching issues because he was born with no umbilical cord stump. This technically can happen, but it's a very rare and fatal medical condition that her baby doesn't have. The final straw was when she told us that the baby basically fell out of her within an hour of being in labor, despite my brother telling us how the birth process was very difficult for Jane, and that's the whole reason they're not going to try for more kids. Mom's on the same side as me and has been noticing these inconsistencies and inaccuracies, but doesn't really know how to bring it up, and their reactions don't help. Well, a few days ago, my brother texted my mom saying that her doubt of Jane is disrespectful, and they both want full apologies from the both of us for bullying Jane about this pregnancy. I haven't made any outright accusations about it, nor have I said any of this to Jane. I've only asked questions when she brings up the birth or pregnancy. Am I even so wrong for having doubts? Or gossiping about this with my own mother? The biggest question that I have after this story is, why does it matter? Why are you so obsessed with this? This is like weird. This feels very mean girl energy. Because here's the deal. Yes, some of the things that you are mentioning and listing out don't make sense. Where she got the IV, the different retellings of the birth, not wanting to be around, and there's a couple explanations, okay? One explanation is that it was a very difficult pregnancy and a very difficult birth, and she was embarrassed about it and didn't want anyone to know. Another possibility is that they were having fertility issues, and that's why they were micromanaging everything, because they really wanted this pregnancy to stick. And that's why they kept everything small and hush hush and didn't want to jinx anything. Like, that is a possible scenario. Another scenario is that they've had fertility issues and got a surrogate, and again, were embarrassed and didn't want people to know. Not that it's anything to be embarrassed about, but it is something that people do get sensitive about. That's another possibility. And to be honest, unless they just went and kidnapped a random infant at the hospital or down the street or something like that, which is very unlikely. That's not like a thing that really happens anymore. Not kidnapping doesn't happen, but like going and like taking someone's baby from the hospital. I did a podcast episode with a postpartum nurse, and she told me the measures people go to make sure that that does not happen at hospitals. So that's how I know. Anyways, all of the reasons that we just talked about, where's the harm? Where does this hurt you or harm you to let her save face in those ways? Why does that bother you so much? If she has a situation, Jane, that she's struggling with, why does it bother you so much to just let her have that? Like that's what I'm not understanding. Because the reality of the matter is, regardless of what the truth is, they have a baby now. There's a baby. It's not like they were lying about there being a baby. There's a baby. There's a 4-month-old baby. And you've got two choices, okay? You can be in their lives or you cannot be in their lives. And I'm like, don't give me the crap about, oh, well, I'm just saying it to my mom. I didn't say anything to her. Clearly, you've said enough to her and to other people that they're noticing something is wrong, to the point that John is confronting you, as he should, good husband W, and telling you not only to knock it off, but to apologize. So clearly you're not as discreet as you think you are. Clearly it's not all on the down low as you claim it is. Just like you say, oh, well, her story doesn't add up. Okay, well, you saying that it's just you and your mom, that also doesn't add up. And if it's not okay for her to not tell the full truth, then you gotta be able to like take the same for yourself, you know? Like, this just feels like a weird hill to die on. What do you want her to admit? She has fertility issues? What do you want her to admit that she had a rough pregnancy? Like, I don't understand why that would bring you joy. I don't understand why that would make you feel better. That shouldn't be a win for you. A win for you would be to have a good relationship with your brother and your sister-in-law so that you can be in your niece or nephew's life. That should be a win. Making a new mother feel bad about herself that shouldn't be a win. What? That's like, for that to be a win, that's like very mean girl energy. I don't like it. And like, I've never given birth, but I have friends that have, and it's so possible that I'm not gonna say like saying that it basically just fell out of her. That 100% just seems like she didn't want people to know how much she struggled during childbirth. But like the IV thing, do you know how many people don't really understand what all the different wires and what all the different medications, like she might have just gotten confused or not understood how it was all working. Like that's, why is your go-to, oh my God, she's lying and there's a conspiracy and blah, 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 blah. Why is that your go-to? Why is it not she was confused or she was misremembering? Because, you know, she's having a baby, you know, like all the wires are probably not what's on her mind right now. It's probably the pain that she's in. Or why is your go-to not, oh, she's probably going through a hard time and doesn't want people to know. Like, it's always interesting to me when someone is going through something and people's immediate reaction is just to assume the worst about them. That, I don't like it. Like, it's weird. I'm not a fan of that. Especially, like, it's different if it's a stranger. It's weird when it's a family member, you know? And over something like this. It's just weird to assume that, like, your first thought is, oh, she's lying. There's some conspiracy. Like, oh, so what if there is? You have a niece or nephew, period. Who cares if the pregnancy was rough or easy? She didn't want you around for it, which means that she doesn't see you as a safe person, which I can see why. I see why. Like, you just complained about, oh, how we wish that we could have been there for her. Well, this is a self-fulfilling prophecy. She didn't feel like you were a safe person, and you are giving her reason to confirm that she made the right call. So I'm going bad apple for you and your mom. That's just, you can't change my mind on that one. It's just a weird hill to die on. Weird. apple number 3. Am I the bad apple for throwing my colleague under the bus? I, 27 male, used to work with a colleague, 32 female, in academic research. We got along really well, and honestly, I loved working with her. It was pure synergy. But if I had to name one thing that drove me nuts, it was how she complained about everything. If situation A happened, she'd complain that it wasn't situation B. And if situation B did happen, she'd complain it wasn't situation A anymore. Every summer, we had interns come in for a couple months. Some for mandatory coursework, others voluntarily. Grad students would take a chunk of their own research, bundle it into a smaller project, and the interns would work on it over the summer to learn new techniques and gain skills and deepen their knowledge in our field. Since they had no prior work experience, the grad students assigned to them had to supervise them daily. I'd been a TA for years, and I've worked with undergrads before, and I loved the challenge. I bonded easily with my students and genuinely wanted the best for them. Most of them ended up earning scholarships or prizes by the end of their internships, and some of my closest friends today were actually my former students. My colleague, though, couldn't care less. When summer rolled around, she complained every day about how the interns slow me down, or how she doesn't have time to teach someone and do twice the work. Sometimes she'd say it right in front of them. One day I told her, hey, I don't really mind taking on 2 students this summer if you'd rather not train one. Would that be okay with you? She agreed immediately, and that was that. A couple weeks later, I had a meeting with my boss, and he asked if I'd be willing to take an intern on the next summer. I, of course, said yes. He then asked, do you know if your colleague wants one? He asked. I said she was pretty adamant that she didn't. At least that's what she told me, but you could always ask her yourself. Maybe she'll change her mind. She usually does, so I don't know. And that was the end of the conversation. Fast forward to onboarding day, my colleague realized she wasn't supervising anyone and came straight to me, demanding to know why. I told her about the meeting with our boss, and she lost it. She accused me of throwing her under the bus and said that I was way out of line for making decisions on her behalf. I tried explaining exactly what happened and even asked if our boss had spoken to her like I suggested, but she evaded the question. She stormed off and was furious with me from that day on. Our relationship's never been the same. I apologized multiple times and even asked why she was so upset about something that she explicitly agreed to, but all I got was the silent treatment or dismissive, you should know why. I shouldn't have to explain it to you. So, was I the bad apple? No. And I have a perspective that I don't know if anyone will agree with me or not, because I think that I have a unique perspective on this situation. So one of my best friends, Sarah, if you follow my Facebook or Instagram or anything like that, you would probably recognize her in a lot of photos. I was a maid of honor in her wedding this past summer. But for those that don't know, Sarah just graduated from Duke with her PhD. That's my girl. And while she was going through that process, I met a lot of her grad student friends. Such sweet people, I love them. And there's a couple people who have this one PI or advisor who is awful. I don't know how he's still working there. I really don't. Actually I do, it's tenure, but anyways. I can't even tell you how often I've thought about making videos about this guy. It pisses me off that he is an educator. It just does. It's disgusting behavior. But anyways, seeing the impact that he has on his grad students. Now, Sarah had a wonderful PI. What is that, I actually don't know what PI stands for, I'm gonna be so honest. I just don't. But it's their faculty advisor, you know what I mean? But Sarah had an amazing PI. Loved him to death. Some of the other girls definitely got one that doesn't really care about their research. He technically isn't even a part of that the science college, really. I don't really understand how he's their advisor, but he does not care about their well-being. He is so rude. He makes their lives so much more difficult. They feel that they are just a burden to him, and it destroys their lives. And so if she's that not only just rude to the students, but that hands off, doesn't want to deal with them, says that they just slow her down, she doesn't want to have to do twice the work to help them. They're better off with somebody else. They're better off getting a different PI and not her. So I'm gonna be honest, I don't really care if she wanted a student or not, or an intern or not. I don't think she deserves one. I don't think the students deserve to go through that and to have that be their grad student experience. I'm like now thinking myself through, and I'm thinking, okay, these are the interns, not the grad students, but still, it doesn't matter. These are people who are at school to get an education, to work towards a degree, whether they're the actual grad students or the interns, it does not matter. It does not matter. I don't feel like, if that's the way she's acting, I don't feel like I can vouch for, oh yeah, interns totally should have to deal with that kind of treatment, should totally have to go through whatever part of their degree that they're going through with that kind of non-support, you know what I mean? So again, just to reiterate, I don't really care if she wanted one or not. I don't think she deserves interns. Personally, I don't feel like that should have to be their experience in this field. So I'm going good apple, because at the end of the day, you made the decision that was right for the interns instead of just a colleague because she's a colleague, and I appreciate that for sure. I was once in a situation at my first school when it wasn't the same kind of situation, but I definitely got so much flack from some older teachers for taking a student's word over a colleague's word. And it made no sense, because like the students just had information that they would not have had if the colleague just didn't keep her mouth shut. But it was, oh, well, we're teachers. We should be on the same side. You shouldn't be taking their side over mine. Well, that's not how it always works. It's just, I know it's such a different situation, but I don't like that mentality. I just don't. I know it's so different, but it just, you know what I mean? I'm just rambling. I need to move on. Apple number 4. Am I the bad apple for being anti-American at school? So basically, I'm an Irish dude who recently moved to America for a couple of years, and pretty much when I introduced myself to my new American classmates, they decided that my authentic Irish name is too hard to spell and too hard to pronounce, so they were gonna give me an American name. That's when everyone started calling me Connor. It honestly started to piss me off. I've told them a bunch of times that I don't actually mind if they mispronounce or misspell or even misremember my name wrong, just as long as they actually attempt to use my real name. Then a few of our teachers even started calling me Connor, and I got really pissed off and told everyone, can you please just call me by my name? I tried to be as polite as I could, but could only say it nicely so many times. That's when everyone told me that I was being dramatic and I was being so anti-American, that what's wrong with Connor? It's a perfectly fine name. Well, so is my name. Now they're starting to call me other names just to annoy me, like Caleb or Cade. Now every time I bring up actually using my name, they just roll their eyes and start with the snarky comments. I mean, I like my classmates, they're nice, but this is really upsetting me. Am I being overdramatic or anti-American? Or do I have a point at all? I just want to know. Am I the bad apple? No. What? Okay, if Americans can pronounce supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, they can pronounce whatever name their classmates have. And I understand that, I think I told this story on a podcast before. I don't know if I told it on Bad Apple. But my first school that I worked at a very diverse school. And I was very concerned about mispronouncing someone's name wrong, because I did not want them to feel like I didn't value and respect their names. It scared the crap out of me. So I even started this thing of, I would always let students introduce themselves to me first so I could hear how they said it, and then I would just make little phonics notes on my seating charts. That's what worked for me. But in what world is it not entitled to just decide, oh, your name's a little different, I don't want to say that, so I'm gonna call you Caleb? What? No, that's just weird. And I would add that if this were a student of color and these kids say that, that would be very racist. So would this be classified as xenophobic? Does that make sense, or am I just am I being dramatic? You know what I mean? Like this just feels, this is a weird vibe. I need to know, I really want to know what state you moved to. That would interest me a lot. Because if you say something like Kansas, not that it's okay, but I wouldn't be as surprised if you said like New York. You know what I mean? Again, not that it's okay anywhere. I'm just being nosy. You know, I'm just being nosy. And some states would surprise me more than others. I'm just saying. But yeah, no, asking someone to call you by your name is never too much. No. Now, if you didn't want to go by your name, that's a different story. But there's no one on this earth that can just decide to rename you. That's weird. That's what kind of entitled person? I'm so disappointed in those teachers. Like, you're telling the teachers too you want to be called by your real name, right? Because if they're still not doing that, and they're hearing how upset you are by this nickname thing, that's gonna be really disappointing to me. I'm not saying at all that I don't believe it's happening, because everyone always assumes that I'm always on the teacher's side, which is not the case. There are so many stories that I'm not. I'm gonna be really upset if the teachers are in on that and egging it on too. That's just gonna really piss me off. Because it's not like they're 14-year-olds just being dumb and entitled. Those are grown adults really making that choice, and that just, And no, saying that you want to use your name instead of like a generic American white guy name is not anti-American, like in the slightest bit. We're just going good apple. Yeah. Okay, so I got 2 good apples, a bad and a crab. Mr. Milo, are you coming to join us? He's like, Mom, it's time for bed. You're taking too long. I know, my sweet. Come here. Come here. You wanna come say hello? Everyone's been missing you. Come here. Let's see if I can get him over here. I know you don't like being in here very much. You just wanna go to bed. I know. He's gonna sit there and he's gonna stare at me until we go to bed. You're such a good boy. It's funny, you wouldn't know this watching the series. Well, I guess they've changed a little bit over the year. Usually it's Vixie that's always in here with me when I'm recording, but when I'm not recording, it's Milo that's always on top of me. But Vixie's been a lot more snuggly in the last year, now that it's just me. We snuggled all day together today, and Milo was not happy. That's why he's all upset right now. He's like, Mom, it's my turn to have you. You're so good. I only have so many laps. If you guys would just sit together. Anyways, that's what I got. Let me know down in the comments if you got anything similar or different. I would love to hear your reasoning down in the comments. And as always, if you want to transfer your stories to be featured on Am I the Bad Apple, you can send them to my subreddit, r/Am I the Bad Apple. And for your well wishes today is National Homemade Soup Day and National Thank a Mail Carrier Day. So I think we can all participate in both of these, if I'm being honest. I mean, if you don't want to do the soup thing, that's totally fine. But I think it's reasonable to all thank a mail carrier. So if you are one, let us know in the comments so we can thank you. And if you're not one, that's okay. Make sure to thank a mail carrier, whether in our comments or if you see the mailman out when you're out and about today. Whatever the two, I think it would be nice if we all took a second to thank mail carriers. And if you are a soup person like me, I am a soup girly, what kind of soup? What kind of soup are you gonna make? I love baked potato soup. I love cheese and broccoli casserole soup. Oh my gosh, I love this like Thai wicked chicken soup. I think it's a Campbell's soup, which is not homemade, it's okay, but it's still so good, I love it. I'd make that homemade. I'd figure out how to do it for sure. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you all have a great rest of your day and hope to see you all next week. Bye, my lovelies. Mwah.